Good afternoon, I'm Dan DeRose, and this is another edition of From Someone Who Knows. This is a weekly segment here at Channel 19 where we go a little bit further than what you get to see on our news coverage. In a news story, you'll see maybe a minute or two of a story and snippets of interviews, but this is a chance to hear all of the words from someone who knows, whether it's a traumatic event, sometimes it's a good occasion, and like today's topic, it's somebody who is thankful to be alive, and I know we say that quite a bit in our industry, and we hear that a lot. But this is truly one of those cases. We know Northeast Ohio can get its share of tornadoes, and we had another one on Monday in Holmes County. It happened in a fairly rural area, but it was a big enough tornado, and it was on the ground long enough that it damaged 5 homes out in the middle of nowhere. In Holmes County. It was near the village of Kilbuck. You've probably never even heard of that. In my 20 years in Cleveland, I'd never heard of Kilbuck. And so the fact that it touched down and damaged 5 homes, and the reason that we're going to hear this interview is it's powerful. It's a woman who watched this come through and tear up her farm. Fortunately, nobody hurt, no animals, no people hurt in this. That's the good news, but it shows you how powerful a tornado can be. And I want you to keep in mind, first let's show you some of the damage from this area. This is the farm that belongs to Cheryl Seabright. And that tornado ripped the side off. That was a garage. That wasn't an opening. That just sucked out the side of that garage. People were out there working, helping with the cleanup. But that's how powerful that tornado was. And so the reason this is a picture during the storm and some of the damage that it left behind on the trees. But the reason we show this is I want you to think about if this had touched down in Parma, if it had touched down in Strongsville or Medina, where you have a heavily populated area. This tornado was an EF-1, that's according to the National Weather Service. It touched down at 5:28 in the evening on Monday. It was on the ground for 3 minutes and it traveled 1.32 miles. So it traveled a little more than 1.33 miles. Think about what that would do in a major metropolitan area, in a major city. If it happened in Cleveland, if it happened in downtown Cleveland, what a tornado could do that was on the ground for 1.25 miles. So go from Public Square and take it out 1.33 miles from there. How much damage that could do and how much damage it could do in a neighborhood. And if there were a lot of people living in the area, that's why tornadoes are so dangerous and can kill people and do every year. Before we hear the interview from Cheryl Seabright and what it was like to live through this, we're going to take a quick break. But again, I want to leave you with some of the video that we saw and the damage from this tornado. And then when we come back, we will hear from Cheryl Seabright, who survived Monday's tornado. And welcome back to And From Someone Who Knows. We're talking about the tornado that touched down in Holmes County in Northeast Ohio on Monday. Fortunately, nobody hurt, not even animals that lived on that farm. We've been showing you some of the video from the damage. And again, I want you to visualize, that's the side of a building that was sucked out. That's how powerful the tornado was. But now we're going to hear from Cheryl Seabright and what it's like to live through this. And yes, she's going to talk about the Wizard of Oz, and she's going to talk about freight trains. And that shows how powerful this can be. It was on the ground for 1.33 miles, 105 mile per hour winds. Take a listen.
This happened last night about 5:15. It was an incredible witness of what happened. Everything got silent, and then all of a sudden it sounded like a freight train coming through, and all you could see was things swirling around in the air. Things were flying everywhere, siding pieces. We had a 18 by 20 hoop structure back here that the horses were actually underneath at the time when it picked it up and shredded it and landed it way down where the fence is broken down there, and it's in many pieces.
It sounds incredible.
It was horrible. I felt like I was in the Wizard of Oz. I'm like, wait, Dorothy, there's no place like home.
Did any of the animals or anybody get hurt?
No, no one got hurt. No animals were perished. Nobody was even got a mark on them. So, and we were both in the house at the time, so it was a blessing.
Yeah. Now, what was the path of it? You sort of point to.
It actually came from the Buckhorn area across 83 and just came right this direction and kept right on going that way. And from what we've heard is we were the end point. That's what we have heard at this point.
And about how long did it last?
About 15 minutes.
That's long.
At that point in time, it seemed like eternity, but it really wasn't. But it certainly did at that moment in time.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Harry.
And thanks for letting us do this, too.
Sure.
All right. Thank you. Be well.
Thank you, sir.
Again, from someone who knows, from someone who has survived and lived through a tornado. Not sure if she ever had before, probably not. When you talk to people, I myself, when I was a kid in my hometown in Iowa, we had 3 tornadoes touch down at the same time. And that was a decent sized city, and that's where you get this idea of damage and how destructive these tornadoes can be when they hit in a rural area, which is more often the case because, you know, Ohio is pretty huge and we've got more rural area than we do cities. But every time it hits a rural area, and for the 5 homes that were hit, those people are left with a mess and cleanup and the headache of trying to get their homes fixed. But at least if it's in a rural area, we're not talking total devastation of an entire neighborhood. I covered a tornado down in Phil Campbell, Alabama for our station. Photographer here and I went down to Phil Campbell where they had about a dozen people who were killed. And this was a tiny town, a very tiny town, but it was so destructive. I believe that was an EF-5 tornado. And it wiped out an entire neighborhood and killed multiple people. And the one thing that I remember about that trip is not just the destruction, that I'd never seen anything like that, but every time you would interview someone who had their house completely wiped out, you would ask if they knew any of the people who died. And because it was such a small community, everyone knew somebody, and in fact, everyone we interviewed knew personally multiple people who died in that tornado. And it is destructive and damaging and scary. And you heard from Cheryl say it's just horrible to live through. So that's why we love our First Alert weather team. They are so phenomenal. Jason Nicholas, Jeff Tanchek, Sam Roberts, Erica Page, Andy Chillian, they do such an incredible job of trying to give everybody the heads up. That's why you should have the First Alert weather app. Is an incredible app to have on your phone, because if something like a strong storm or a tornado warning gets issued, that app is going to give you the heads up. And that's why it is so important. So that's going to wrap it up for this segment of From Someone Who Knows. Now, we do this every week, and we've got multiple episodes, and we'd love for you to go back and see some of the other episodes. You can scan that QR code. It'll take you right to them to see the full episodes of From Someone Who Knows. Some that we've had in the past are heartbreaking. Some involve pets that have been abused. Some are people who were drag racing down in Akron and they thought they were in the right. And you quickly see in the video from someone who knows that they were not in the right. And the person who knows in that case was the Akron Police Department. That's a very entertaining one to watch. I highly recommend that. It's going to wrap it up for this week's segment From Someone Who Knows. I'm Dan DeRose with 19 News. Have a great day.